Welcome back to my high school economics class. This is Dr. Kling, and I'm on to my second topic of the second concept, which is rent versus buy. So this is rent versus buy. So calculating whether it makes more sense to rent or buy. So let's say we had a house or an apartment that cost $100,000 and that rents for $400 a month. We'll find it easier to convert that to a year, so 12 times 400 is equal to 4,800 a year. So you can think of the benefits of buying the house. So the benefits of buying are rent and appreciation. Now, appreciation doesn't mean you appreciate the house, it means the value of the house goes up. So by appreciation, what I mean is, hang on a second, get some more blackboard here. So appreciation, let's say that I know that next year, I could sell the house for $102,000. Period. No. Okay, so $102,000. That means the appreciation is $2,000. So we have rent up here of 4,800, and I'm going to get 2,000 of appreciation. I sell it after the 1 year. And the cost of buying is interest cost. Let's say I have to borrow the entire $100,000 and pay 6% interest. So if there's a 6% interest rate times $100,000, then in 1 year there will be $6,000 in interest. Right, so that gives me the interest. So now I have everything I need. I have the benefits and I have the costs. So the benefits are $4,800 in rent plus $2,000 in appreciation, and then the cost is $6,000 in interest. And if I go 4,800 plus 2,000 minus 6,000, that gives me 6,800 minus 6,000 is equal to $800. And that says that the benefits are greater than the costs, and in that case, the right answer is to buy. I'll be better off buying the house than paying the rent. If I buy the house, I'll be out the $6,000 in interest, but I will avoid having to pay $4,800 in rent, and I will get $2,000 in appreciation. Or another way to think about it, suppose that I'm not even living in this place and I'm thinking of it as a speculative, or as an owner. I'm going to buy the house and rent it out. I'll collect $4,800 in rent. I'll get the $2,000 appreciation if I sell it next year, and I'll only pay out the $6,000 interest cost, So a net gain of $8,000, and it's profitable to buy. So I often write this as profitability equals rent plus appreciation minus interest cost. And I often express all of this in percentage terms by dividing by the price of the house. So, okay, well, first of all, when this is greater than 0, you buy. When this is less than 0, you should rent. It's cheaper to rent. And when it's equal to 0, you're indifferent. So this equation can tell you whether to rent or buy. Now, I was starting to say that I express it in percentage terms by dividing by the price of the house, or of whatever long-lived asset we're talking about. So we take the price. Remember, the price in this case was $100,000. And we divide both sides of the equation by the price. So we get profitability over the price equals rent over the price plus the appreciation, I'm just going to abbreviate it, over the price minus interest cost over the price. And what that gives you is a set of rates. It gives you the profitability rate equals the rental rate plus the appreciation. Don't worry about my spelling. The appreciation rate minus the interest rate. So let me show how to do it in those terms in this problem. So the rental rate, we take the rent divided by the house. So house price, that was $4,800 divided by 100,000, and that gives you 4.8%. So I'm taking it as a percentage. The appreciation rate was 2,000 divided. Now I'll divide by the house price, and that's 2.0%. And then the interest rate was the $6,000 over the $100,000, or 6%. So in percentage terms, the profitability rate is equal to 4.8%. That's our rental rate, plus 2.0%. That's our appreciation rate, minus 6.0%, which is our interest cost, equals positive 0.8%. And so I'll often express it in those terms. Now this rent versus buy just doesn't apply just to housing. In fact, with housing there are many more complicated things. There's taxes and tax deductions from mortgage interest, and then there's property taxes. There might be condo fees. So there's a lot of complications. But in general, this profitability equation, the profitability equals rental rate plus appreciation rate minus interest rate, that my penmanship was poor there. I was in a hurry. What that does, it applies to any long-lived asset. So the range of things comes, you can do it with a fruit tree, where you plant the tree, the fruit is the corresponds to the rent, and the appreciation, maybe the tree gets bigger and that it causes it to appreciate, or the tree for some other reason becomes more valuable. Or maybe the tree actually declines in value as it ages, and that the appreciation rate could become negative. And then the interest, again, you borrow to finance this long-lived asset. So a fruit tree is one example. A stock, a common stock, so I'll call this common stock. So shares in General Motors or Google or Apple or whatever. The equivalent of rental rate is the dividend rate, the ratio of the dividends. Let's say it's $2 per share to the price of the share. Let's say it was $50 a share. So you could have $2 divided by 50 would be the dividend rate. And then the appreciation rate would be how much the stock goes up in value. And then you compare that to the interest rate and decide what, if the dividends plus the appreciation minus the interest rate is positive, you'll get a profit from owning that common stock. So there are many uses of this rent versus buy calculation. Actually, let me describe one more. Hold on a second. Another one would be a car lease. So should you lease the car or buy? And car leasing is a bit complicated, but suppose it looked like this. Suppose you could lease for $8,000 a year. If you buy, you might have depreciation, that is negative appreciation, of, let's say, 6,000, and then let's say you have interest cost of 1,000. So the lease, in some sense, is the rental, is the rent. So we have the profitability is equal to 8,000, which is your rent, plus a negative 6,000, which is the what would happen if you bought the car and then sold it next year. It would go down in value by $6,000. And then you also subtract the interest cost. And in this case, it would say that you're better off buying. That because the $8,000 lease cost, if that's the way the leasing works, and trust me, auto leasing is complicated. This isn't a good. It's not an easy example, but if it cost you $8,000, if it would cost you $8,000 to lease it, but it would only cost you $6,000 in depreciation and $1,000 in interest, then you're better off buying in that example. And I've got to say, real-world examples are very complicated. Whether you should rent a DVR from the cable company or buy it, my guess is that it's cheaper to buy, because the rent is, I think, pretty high relative to the price of a DVR. But then you have to deal with, how do you install and connect your own DVR. Same with cell phones. I'm absolutely perplexed about the contract terms in cell phones. It seems to be you can order a phone pretty cheaply from Amazon or whatever, but then how do you know how to connect it up into your phone network? So you end up renting it from the phone company. But my guess is that buying a phone could work out to be cheaper than renting it from the cell phone company, but I just don't. They make it so complex that you just end up saying, "Oh, I'll just rent